Within attributions, we'll look at Weiner's model and the different types of attributions, how they're placed on the model, how giving different types of attributions can motivate you or lead to task persistence, and then different ways that a coach could use attribution retraining, as well as looking at a related topic of learned helplessness. So attributions are basically reasons that we would give for either winning, losing, performing well, or whatever. So it's what we attribute success or failure to. So as we said there, we'll have a look at the types of attributions that performers make. We need to understand those, but importantly, we need to understand how those different attributions can affect your future success or motivation. So Weiner's model. Weiner's model looks at 2 dimensions. Okay, so the 2 dimensions are, one, locus of causality, and secondly, stability. So this could be potentially one question they might ask you about the dimensions. They are the 2. The locus of causality, so it's what caused it or who caused it. So is it internal or external? So something internal would be to do with me, external to do with somebody else. And stability is whether the factor is stable or unstable, whether it changes or not. So the other thing we also need to understand is that we have 4 groups. So within the middle here, you can see the different groups. These are them. So the first one is ability, right? So you could blame your victory on the fact that we were the better team. The second one is task difficulty, so this is external and stable, and that could have been that the opponent was too good for me, so something to do with your opponent's ability basically. So there aren't that many stable attributions, but as we know, ability is inherited, and so we would basically relate it around that. There are more unstable factors, and internal and unstable example that Weiner gives is effort. So attributing a victory to giving maximum effort. And unstable and external could be luck. So it could have been about the referee, blaming the ref on a defeat. So 2 main questions around Weiner's model. Around the dimensions, make sure you know the 2 dimensions and the 4 groups. It's always worth, in my opinion, backing it up with saying that things are internal and stable, for example, like ability. So, as in the achievement motivation lesson, we know that low achievers are likely to have a low self-confidence, etc., don't believe much in themselves, and therefore if they succeeded they'd blame it on luck, and if they failed they would blame it on their lack of ability. These things would obviously be negative. And this leads us on to learned helplessness. So with learned helplessness, we start here, where we have some sort of failure, and that's attributed to a lack of ability. So that's an internal factor. So again, always back it up with how it applies to the model. So with that failure, that then leads to a lack of confidence. The lack of confidence will lead to a poor performance in the future. So the next performance is likely to be a poor one due to the low confidence, and this means that it's likely that we'll fail again. So once you fail again, it's likely again that that performer is going to attribute that failure to a lack of ability. So we're in this vicious cycle, and it would be very difficult to come out of it. If the low achiever did happen to succeed, it's likely they would attribute that success to luck. Okay, so that's an external factor. And what happens here is that there's no increase in confidence, even though that we have had some success, and there should be. So again, it's likely to lead to a poor performance, failure again, and then we're back into the previous cycle. So in other words, this performer, through their attributions, is never gaining confidence and actually just confirming in their own mind that they are not very good. So that's how learned helplessness occurs. 3 words to define learned helplessness, dead easy. Failure is inevitable. So the performer thinks failure is inevitable. They feel that it doesn't matter what they do, how well they play, that they are that bad that they will just lose. Some good words to help describe and explain learned helplessness. So learned helplessness tends to make us give up quite easily, and this is even when success is possible. Again, so this learned helplessness performer, the low achiever, is in that cycle where they just think they're going to lose. There are 2 types of learned helplessness. One can be specific, so it can be for a certain sport or even a certain skill, and also it can be global. So you can think that you're rubbish at everything, and there are obviously some people who are that kind of a person. So as a coach, we need to be aware of these people and of learned helplessness, that it can occur, and we can try to address it through attribution retraining. So here the coach is going to try to get them to retrain them to make better attributions than the ones that they that we've just gone through, that they're giving in success and failure. The first thing we can do is ensure success. Okay, so that's some success for a learned helplessness person is a starting point on their road to recovery. Basically, there are 2 methods though to use for attribution retraining. The first one is setting controllable attributions. So if you can control what we're saying, then you can do something about it. So if I do succeed, then I'm likely to act the same, and I'm likely to act differently following failure. So we're talking about effort here. Okay, so attributing things to effort is always a good sign. This is going to make the performer want to improve as well, because putting effort in means I can actually do something about it. So if I blame, going back to this point here, following a success, if we blame it on effort, that I tried really hard, it's likely that I'm going to do the same again next week. Alright, because we've started to link the effort with the success. And again, if I attribute a lack of effort on my failure, then that's likely that I need to try harder the next time, so I can do something about it. The other technique I can use is self-serving bias. So this is basically trying to protect your self-confidence. So it's doing the opposite of what the performer did before in those success and failure examples. So if we do succeed, blame it on internal factors such as ability. So pat on the back, I did well, I played well, I'm a good player, that's why I won. Give yourself a pat on the back. And this, obviously, the coach can help to do that. And the other thing we can do is, in failure, we can blame external factors like luck, blame the referee or the circumstances, or that we didn't have the rub of the green. Obviously, we shouldn't always use self-serving bias, because if we blame the ref every week, for example, then we're never going to actually take any responsibility ourselves and try to improve and do something about it. So a typical exam question around using attribution theory to maintain motivation. And you can see that we're actually gaining a mark for saying what attributions are, and then we've got different, because it said following a defeat in the question, these are all to do with failure, that we can blame different factors from Weiner's model. So we can use some of those. We can use self-serving bias, and you normally do get a mark for mentioning the term attribution retraining, so they're always worth remembering. And a different question around learned helplessness, which is also a very common topic. So this is obviously split into two in terms of the 5 marks. So what do we understand by learned helplessness? You can see that failure is inevitable. Global and specific is always worth mentioning. And then a little bit around how we get there. Alright, so giving internal stable reasons to failure, like we talked about, and then giving up when success is possible. So to overcome learned helplessness, again, this would be a similar answer as we've talked about before. We'd be using the attribution retraining and getting them to achieve success. Putting down success to those internal stable factors like ability, and the failure down to external factors like effort or luck. So that's the main topic areas for attributions and learned helplessness. Common questions on the exam and fairly straightforward ones that we should succeed in.